What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast. Back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co-host, Amanda, back on the show. What's up, Amanda?
Hey guys. I just gotta say real quick, I know we've done a couple episodes this offseason, but I am so stoked that football is about to be like back for real. Like summer was
Yeah.
long, man. I'm ready.
We got a little taste of it with some college football, and we just can't wait for the NFL to kick off Thursday night. It's going to be a hell of a game, too. Ravens Chiefs.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
basically like the AFC championship game in week one. Like it's such a
Yeah.
great matchup to start the season.
Yeah, and for those that follow this show, we're gonna have some great guests weekly, all season long. So make sure and stay tuned for that. This episode is gonna be a season preview, and we're gonna go quickly through the league, all the divisions, and kind of talk about who we think is gonna win each division and who the contenders are. Let's start out in the NFC East. And Amanda, to me, it's a two-horse race between the Eagles and Cowboys. I expect the Eagles to bounce back. After the way they collapsed last year and then losing to Tampa Bay, getting blown out in the playoff game. I expect Philly to bounce back and be probably win the division over Dallas. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, the Cowboys haven't done that much to change things up, and they lost to a team of rookies in the postseason. Like
Yeah,
I I mean, okay, technically Jordan Love is not a rookie, but I mean, first year starting, like I just don't trust the Cowboys. They put so much money into that team, and I know, McCarthy's coming up on a contract year, so he's going to be playing for his job, but we've seen him in that situation in Green Bay and it hasn't ever, culminated into anything. So my money's on the Eagles to win the division.
yeah, and running back is a point of concern. I mean, their number one running back is going to be Zeke Elliott. Tony Pollard's gone. Zeke Elliott, is he a number one running back? He led the Patriots in catches last year, but that was as the number two running back. They signed Dalvin Cook. Uh, I'm not sold on that. I love the defense, but Deron Bland is gonna miss what, like 6 to 8 weeks, something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
that's a big loss for them too.
Yeah. New defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer. So I think they take a step back. And to me, it's less about the Cowboys and a lot more about the Eagles. New
Agreed.
defensive coordinator Vic Fangio brought in Saquon Barkley, who's going to be motivated and pissed off, trying to stick it to the Giants, right? And I think he's going to have a great year. I mean, how do you defend that Eagles team when hitting on all cylinders was already really tough to defend? Now
Mhm.
you add Saquon Barkley next to Jalen Hurts. I don't know how you defend that.
That team is just so stacked. And even with some decisions that you and I question, new OC, Kellen Moore. I know you haven't been the biggest fan of him. Do you think he'll
Yeah.
do better in this position with the rest of the coaching staff here? Because I can see him having kind of I think this could be a good environment for him to kind of hone his skills. Because I haven't loved anything he's done previously, but I think this might be a good matchup with him on that coaching staff.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Kellen Moore's, but Ben Johnson wasn't that great last, or Brian Johnson, is that who it was? Wasn't that
Brian.
Brian Johnson wasn't that great. He's gone. Kellen Moore, he's all right, but I mean, how do you mess up with all those weapons with Dallas Goedert, with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith? Now you got Jahan Dotson. Uh, they got a lot of talent on that offensive side of the ball, and then on top of it, the defense is loaded too. Jalen Carter, and all those guys. So, they did lose Jason Kelsey. That is a loss. We'll see if the tush push or whatever they call that, the quarterback sneak thing, is as effective. But I still think to me, the X factor, Saquon Barkley, is going to really open up that offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I see them as, a front runner for the NFC, and I don't think they've done anything to hurt themselves. Like, yes, the loss of Jason Kelsey is a big deal, but I think they've balanced that out. And you know, we've talked about Dan Quinn leaving and moving on to a new team. I mean, who else do we think is going to challenge them here? Like the Commanders, obviously, I think Dan Quinn is an upgrade for them, but I haven't seen anything out of the Commanders for quite a few years now to make me think they have hopes of pulling off a Super Bowl run anytime soon.
Well, it all hinges on the rookie, Jaden Daniels.
I just don't think he's ready yet. I don't think
If
he's a
he's
first
CJ
year.
if he's CJ Stroud of last year,
I was just gonna
then
say, do you think that this is the Texans from last year? Because
I don't think
I
it's
could
a
see this
Texans
one, or I
team.
could see it going Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see them making the playoffs. I think Jaden Daniels has potential to be an elite quarterback.
In two
Um,
to three years.
yeah, I mean, why did they trade away Jahan Dotson? That makes no sense.
He was worth
Um,
something too. I mean,
yeah, um, but they did bring in Austin Eckler. They brought in Zach Ertz. Um, I'm not sold on Cliff Kingsbury. You know, he might be an all right offensive coordinator, at least better than head coach. But they brought in Bobby Wagner. But the Commanders, Jaden Daniels would have to go absolutely crazy for them to win 9 games, and I don't see that happening. I think they're like a 7, 8 win team at best. And then the Giants, you know, Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones, we saw that pick six he threw in the preseason. I don't trust Daniel Jones at all. Now they
never
don't have
have.
Saquon Barkley, you know. I think Malik Neighbors, as great as he is going to be frustrated because Daniel Jones
Yeah.
can't get him the ball.
I was gonna say he's one of those receivers that I would have loved on a team with a good quarterback. I feel like
Yeah,
he's gonna come into that situation. Obviously, he's gonna be the star of the offense, but I don't think the team's gonna be as productive as he'd hoped to be drafted to because that sucks as a rookie. Like coming into an unproductive team that you just assume is gonna be dead last in the division. Like Malik Neighbors seems like the kind of player who wants to be competitive and wants to have to fight for his job and wants to, be up there. Like, obviously, I'm going to talk about the Packers, but the Packers receiver room, like, that's what you want. You want it to be competitive. You don't want it to be dead set and obvious who your number one receiver is. And I think Malik Neighbors is going to be a little underwhelmed with what's happening in New York.
yeah. And if we watch the Hard Knocks, the Giants Hard Knocks, they asked Malik Neighbors like, "How do you feel about if you weren't getting targets, if you weren't a big featured aspect of the game plan?" He's like, "I would have a problem with it." Like he straight
Mhm.
up said it, and Brian Dable was like, "Good, that's what we want. That we want someone that wants to win and demands the ball." But with Daniel Jones, I think it's asking for disaster,
Yeah.
and the one bright spot of that Giants team is the D line. Adding Brian Burns to go with Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence, even Azeez Ojulari, that's a nasty D line. But outside of that, I don't see a lot of bright spots there. So I think they're going to finish last in the division, and
Yeah.
it's Daniel Jones is the issue.
I wish I could argue with that because I like when you and I riff back and forth, but I think we're in agreement on that division. If you want to get
Well,
arguing, let's talk about how great the Lions are going to be this year because I know you were anti-Detroit last year and you fought me every week on them. But
I'm gonna be fighting you every week on them again this year.
don't
It's
just pick
simple.
against the team because you don't like them.
No, it's not that I don't like them. It simply boils down to two things, and it's two of the most important things on any team in football: head coach
How do
and
you feel about
quarterback.
Goff?
Head coach and quarterback. And
Yeah.
Goff, Goff had multiple turnover games a few times last year. You watched Thanksgiving, right? When he
Yeah.
completely turned fumble after fumble after
Of
fumble,
course I watched Thanksgiving. I mean,
like multiple interceptions against the Cowboys.
it
Everyone
was
talked
bad.
about the illegal touching, but if Goff doesn't throw interceptions, the Lions win that.
Yeah.
They lost to the Bears with Justin Fields with multiple turnovers. So Goff is you know, Goff played out of his mind last year. My question is, can he repeat that? And they've got a loaded offense around him. Great offensive line, great weapons. Jameer Gibbs, all these guys, Sam Laporta, Amon Ra. But can Goff continue to protect the football, or will he? What was his issue with the Rams? Inconsistency.
Mhm.
He couldn't put back-to-back seasons. So I'm interested to see what happens there. And then on the cherry on top is Dan Campbell. his ultra aggressiveness is gonna cost his team wins. We saw it last year. We saw it in the playoffs.
I mean, you're a Bears fan, so you have watched games and been frustrated the entire game with bad coaching and bad quarterbacking. But Lions fans right now have got to be pulling their hair out watching these games because some of these decisions are so idiotic. Like I can't remember how many games it was, but you and I went through last year and counted up how many games they would have won if they had just taken the field goal when it was available that they ended
Yeah.
up losing. And I mean, I was it 4 games, 3 games? I
I
mean,
mean,
that's a chunk. That's
and it's
insane to just give away that many points.
and it's not just the field goals. It's like going for, go fake punts from your own
Mhm.
30.
Oh,
Like
I know it makes you feel cool and like a big man, but what the hell, Dan?
like you could have gone to overtime with the Cowboys, but instead you
Oh
went for
yeah.
two and not just once, three times, even when you got backed up to the 7 and the 4. So, you know,
If at first you don't succeed, try again, I guess. But
yeah,
man,
the
that's
the Lions are going to be good. I got them at between 9 to 11 wins. They're going to be competing for the division with Green Bay. I just don't trust Goff and Campbell. That's why I give the edge to your Packers to win the division.
I am a cynic and I never put money on my own team. Like if my team is playing against my quarterback in fantasy, I'll always pick against my team. I would rather be right than put money on my team and be upset about it and then also be wrong. But I want the Packers to be as good as the talent on their team. I like everything that's going for them. The kicker situation freaks me out. We've had issues on special teams for a few years now. I mean, Mason Crosby's gone. Last year was a mess. We had a youngin, so we figured, we'd give him a little time, but we let go of him and both of our backup quarterbacks. We brought in a new kicker. Where did they get him from?
He was an undrafted rookie. He was with the Titans in
Um,
the preseason. He did all right
yeah,
in the
from
preseason.
Tennessee.
He was like 6 of 7 and he hit a game winner. So
Yeah, but that's preseason. So it doesn't say a lot. I mean, he looked good in preseason. I forgot who had him before, but I don't
yeah.
know. The situation's weird. Um,
Well,
but I do think the Packers and Detroit will be head to head. And I like some of the offseason moves. I mean, Josh Jacobs is a great pickup. Obviously, I wish we'd kept Aaron Jones. I don't like that
upgrade.
he's in division though.
Yeah.
I hate when Packers players go to the enemy and they do it all the time. Um,
That's
but
what's fun about you see that a lot where free agents go
always,
to the enemy, like
I feel
Saquon. I
like it
mean,
happens a lot in the NFC North though.
yeah, but
Like, there's been some big names swapped around in that division. I'm like, why? Go somewhere else. Like, Brett,
hey,
come on. Like, not
if your
Minnesota. And
team
it's
gives up
always
on you,
Minnesota.
what better way to get to stick it to them than go to the rival?
But you'd actually have to beat us. And I don't know how, if you've been paying attention, how often people have gone to Minnesota and not beat us. But I
Well,
mean, it's rough.
Brett,
But
Brett
I'm
Favre,
ecstatic about Xavier McKinney. Like picking up him as a safety, I think this
yeah,
is really going to round out that line. I
Javon
mean,
Bullard too, the
I was just
rookie.
gonna say
Yeah,
Bullard looks good. You and I both liked him in the draft. And Jordan Love got a lot of money, and I think they had to pay him because if he has another great season, if we make another postseason push this year, we would have had to pay him even more. And you got to pay him. Like if you want production out of someone who's coming off their rookie contract, who's showing that much promise, you have to pay him. But I mean, we made Aaron Rodgers the highest paid quarterback in the league back in the day, and the furthest we made it after that was the NFC Championship game. So I am a cynic. Obviously a hopeful cynic, but we will see. Talk to
well,
me about your Bears.
real quick on Jordan Love, I'm interested to see how he handles now he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and expectations rise with that.
Mhm. So
And
does pressure and
yes,
attention.
and he started a little slow last year. The first
He
half
did.
of the season, the Packers weren't talking playoffs, and then he got hot at the end of the year. Um, so I'm interested to see how he handles it. It's good that he's got like the same weapons around him, the same guys, so they should be able to. And Josh Jacobs is an upgrade in my opinion. So I like that add.
Agreed. They would
Marshawn
have been a
Lowell,
great 1-2 punch, especially now with
AJ Dillon.
AJ Dillon out.
Yeah.
I would have loved them at 1 and 2. I wish AJ Dillon had been as productive as I'd hoped, so that he would have been worth trading away.
I
Because
think
Jones and Jacobs would have been
I
amazing
think you're gonna
together.
like Marshawn Lloyd though. I think he's a baller out of USC. It's a
Agreed.
good, excellent value pick in the third round.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll see how Jordan Love does. I mean, talking about any of these teams, we talk head coach and quarterback,
Yeah.
and Matt LaFleur has done a great job, and we'll see if Jordan Love continues to develop, in an upward trajectory, and if he can win the division. That's the expectations in Green Bay. Win the division, host a playoff game, and see if you can get back to the conference championship or to the conference
Yeah.
championship.
One game short.
And yeah,
If
so
we can beat the San Francisco 49ers for once in the postseason, that would be great. And one other thing I'm watching, defensive coordinator. Despised Joe Barry. Not a fan. I don't
yep.
like what he was doing. I don't think he was focusing on correcting the issues, because we saw issues in week 3 that we saw again in week 10, 11, and 12. So I have some hope for Jeff Hafley, former Boston College head coach. So I'm intrigued to see what he does in that defense. But I mean, I think we need to move on to the
To my
ugly ducklings
Bears.
of the NFC North. Let's talk Minnesota and
Hey,
Chicago. Who do you have rounding out the bottom of the division is what I want to know.
Minnesota.
Okay.
Sam, I got no trust in Sam Darnold. If JJ McCarthy looked good in the preseason, if he was healthy, I
Mhm.
would, I would be like, McCarthy is going to start sooner than later, and the Vikings might take off when he comes in. But I don't trust Sam Darnold to carry a team to the playoffs. I can tell you that much. Um,
I mean, I
the
think
Vikings organization,
Aaron Jones might try to carry the team on his back, because he doesn't seem very happy about how things ended with Green Bay. He's pretty bitter, and he'll talk about it. So I think he'll play pretty hard to prove that, Minnesota's worth being a part of. But that sucks. And I'm
yeah,
kind of disappointed, because when we talked to draft, I wanted JJ McCarthy backing up a good veteran quarterback, and that is not Sam Darnold. If Kirk Cousins was still there, this season would still be a a promising season for them. And now with McCarthy out for the season with that torn meniscus, it's a lost season as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. I mean, he'll keep them competitive, but I think 6 to 8 wins is realistic. I don't see them finishing with a winning record. I could be wrong. Maybe Sam Darnold. A lot of people in the NFL are still holding out hope that Sam Darnold. They'll be like, well, he was in a terrible spot with the Jets. He was on a terrible team with the Panthers, but I don't see it. He's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Jordan Addison. He's going to have T.J. Hawkinson, Aaron Jones. Now or never, right? Sam
Mhm.
Darnold. So we'll see if he can get it done. I'm very optimistic about my Bears. For the first time ever, we might have a quarterback. And not only that, we put weapons around him. Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift. So if the O line can hold up, the Bears offense might be somewhat scary for the first time ever. And that's what I'm hoping for. Uh, Montez Sweat on that D line, our secondary. I'm loving our secondary right now. Led the league in interceptions last year. So we'll see. I don't see playoffs for the Bears. I think I don't think I think 9-8 is the ceiling, and I don't think that happens. I think it's a losing season, and continue to let Caleb Williams develop. And my favorite scenario is go 6-11, 7-10, just bad enough so that we fire Eberflus and get a real head coach in here,
Yeah.
and then he can develop Caleb Williams the rest of the way.
I think unfortunately for you guys, the draft worked out beautifully. I mean, getting
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams and Roma Odunze, like that's ideal, like top tier draft. Like they had
Yeah.
a so I think that made Eberflus look good. So now he needs to look like absolute crap for some reason, so you guys can get rid of him, because he's holding the team back. And I absolutely agree and support you on that.
Offensively, for sure. I don't think he's a good game manager. Eberflus is a solid defensive coordinator. He's got our
Yeah,
defense playing solid, but he's not an NFL head coach, in my opinion. And I'm very picky about head coaches, so that's just
same,
where I stand with him.
same. So
Uh,
I feel like we have about the same order. I don't know if I have Bears or Vikings rounding out the bottom. It's a
Yeah,
rebuilding year for Chicago, so I think the pressure might be a lot for them, and this is a lot of attention for them.
it
So I
is
just
like they're expected to win now. The expectations are
Mhm.
like make the playoffs, and I just don't think they're ready for that.
Yeah, I think that's too much pressure for Chicago this year.
Yeah.
And I don't Sam Darnold, the weapons in Minnesota, I think the weapons in Chicago are going to be pretty even, but I do
Hmm.
think the weapons in Minnesota have already been tested. Um,
Yeah.
Chicago's so much younger. I do see them pulling the team together and becoming a threat, but maybe not this year.
Yeah, exactly. It's a work in progress,
Mhm.
and I think Green Bay wins a division. Detroit likely gets in as a wild card. We'll see how competitive the NFC is. Ideally, this is what I was hoping for last year, and I hope that we get it this year. Is Lions Packers meeting in the playoffs? That's what I want to
It
see.
was close.
Yeah,
And if that had happened, Green Bay would have gone to the Super Bowl because we
yeah.
just beat Detroit. And
I think
then
Green Bay would beat them. Yeah.
San Francisco is the worst nightmare of Green Bay Packers in the postseason. They can't beat them. I mean, we saw it with Aaron Rodgers. Like Jordan Love literally is his replacement. He loses to the same teams. Like it's yeah. So let, I'll get on my soapbox and you won't get me to shut up about it. So let's move on to the NFC South. We kind of brushed on the Falcons when we were getting the recording ready to go. Um,
Hmm.
I'm intrigued by this team. I think the quarterback situation is a little tense. I mean, they didn't really give Kirk Cousins a heads up that they were going to draft somebody and they brought him down. How do you feel about the Falcons coming into the season?
I'm very optimistic about this team because they remind me of the Steelers in the fact that last year, who were their quarterbacks? Desmond Ritter and Taylor Henneke, and they were still competitive and almost won that division.
Somehow.
Ritter is on the practice squad.
Yep.
Henneke is backing up in LA. Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, they're both upgrades. And what's the thing we said for years in Atlanta is that they've got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and no quarterback to unlock that potential. Now you've got Kirk Cousins, and I think you're going to see that offense really take off.
Mhm.
Um, Now it's not going to be the best in the league, but it's going to be a lot better than what it was.
Yeah,
And
I
and
I think those weapons have been wasted a little bit. So I am stoked that they have
yeah,
Penix Jr. or Cousins. I just hope that the tension and like the I guess the hierarchy has been established going into the season and it's not a tense situation. Like I hope Penix has accepted his like role with Cousins being his mentor. And it's not some tense, awkward situation coming into the
well,
season.
I think they're actually in a good spot because the situation sucks for Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. Penix wanted to be a day one starter. Kirk
Yep.
Cousins doesn't want that distraction, right? Or that threat to his job. If Kirk Cousins struggles, he's coming off a major injury. If he struggles, if he gets hurt, or if he's throwing some picks, then then he'll get benched and Michael Penix will come in. I think either quarterback is capable of being successful. So if Cousins can't do it, then you bring in the rookie and give him the keys to the offense. So I think as a team, you're in a good spot, honestly, because you've got two quarterbacks. If Cousins can't do it, then bench his ass, and that has me optimistic. What really sold it to me was trading for Matthew Judon and
Mm-hmm.
signing Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons being available, like we talked about this a little bit with Hugh Jackson last year. The
Yeah,
exodus of safeties being cut and traded over the last season is crazy to me. Justin Simmons being available, why would you ever let him go? That's crazy to me. So I think
yeah.
that's one of my favorite signings that I've seen this
And then
year. Like
put him next to Jesse Bates.
that's
That's
disgusting.
nasty.
Like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm more intrigued by that side of the ball than the quarterback situation.
Yeah, it sucks that their third round pick, Braylon Trice, is out for the season. They're rookies. So that's one negative, but they're going to be absolutely in contention in that division, fighting with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to be right there. I don't see Tampa Bay taking a step back. I think they're going to be contending as well. Baker Mayfield got paid, and they didn't get really any worse, in my opinion. You still got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Now you add Jalen McMillan. You still got Rashad White. Now you add Bucky Irving. Like they they got some weapons for sure, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And then defensively, you still got Vita Vea. You still got Antoine Winfield. You still got who's the linebacker I'm blanking on? Levante David. So
Yeah.
they got a lot of talent still.
Yeah, I feel like this is the same team that we saw last year. Like I know
Yeah.
obviously like they let some players go, they drafted people, but I'm expecting the same team as last year. And I will forever love and hope the best things for Baker Mayfield.
Mhm.
So, I think they're good. I think it'll come down a lot to mindset, which we see a lot with Baker because he gets in his head a lot. Um, and I'm hopeful for them. It'll be interesting to see with this division because I don't have any hope in the Panthers pulling ahead, but I mean, Bucks, Falcons, I think either one of them could swoop in here.
Yeah, I'll say this. I don't see any team in that division winning 11 games. Much like last year, I think it's going to be a low win total
Hmm.
dogfight. And the Saints might even be in that conversation. The Panthers, I think, are going to be a little better.
Yeah,
They're
I was
not
just
going to
gonna say,
be,
I think the Saints could be competitive too.
yeah,
This is gonna be one of those years where a team misses the playoffs with 11 or 12 wins, and then an NFC South team gets in with
yeah,
9
we're like
wins, and it's
nine.
gonna piss
Yeah,
me off.
yeah.
I remember what year was it when Arizona missed the playoffs with 12 wins?
I forget, but I remember
Oh,
that.
God, it made me
Uh,
sick. Because the 49ers in Seattle both had like 13 wins or 12 wins or something too. Like,
yeah.
how do you win 12, like a 16 game season? You win 12 games, you're like, nah, sorry, you didn't make it. Like that makes me so mad. Like I'm so upset for them. Like we played our hearts off, but oops, our division's just too good. That sucks.
I like it though. You have to win. It starts with
Oh,
the
I know.
division.
I mean, it makes sense. There's no other way to break it down, but
Yeah.
like it just sucks for them. Like, can you imagine like winning 12 like that's 75% of your games. Like, no. Well, not anymore because they've added a game. But like, come on, bro. That's gotta suck. But I mean, Panthers, we talked about David Tepper all last season. Just the decisions being made for that team and that team,
Yeah.
I I see no positivity coming out of there. I think Tepper is a blight on society in Carolina. There's
We'll
no
see.
morale. There's no positivity about that team.
Yeah, we'll see. Dave Canellis is an offensive head coach, so they brought him in to try to get more out of Bryce Young. We'll see if that
Upgrade from
works.
Frank Reich for
Yeah,
sure.
upgrade from Frank Reich. They drafted Xavier Legette, so good move there. Um, but you lose Brian Burns. You bring in Jadeveon Clowney, so he comes home.
Yeah, he's
Um,
on the downward trajectory of his career though.
well, he's supposed to be. He tied a career high in sacks last year in Baltimore. That might be Baltimore. You know what
I
I
think that's
mean? So
Baltimore. I don't think
he,
that's him. I
he
think
might have
he
a
was,
down year in Carolina,
yeah.
especially the Burns out. So
Yeah, and then leaving Baltimore, who's, competitive and scrappy, and going to Carolina, who, I mean, they
yeah,
didn't even seem like they cared if they won or lost last season.
no, it's like I said, they're gonna be
Yeah,
better, but I think their ceiling is like 6 wins. So
yeah.
they're not gonna
The
be
team
very
just seems
good.
apathetic and they just seemed depressed last year. So I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of that drive that you would get playing in a Baltimore, in a San Francisco, where like morale and tension and like I just I think a lot of that is going
yeah,
to be missing for that team.
yeah.
We touched on the Saints for a second, but Derek Carr has had an interesting career so far. And I like him on the Saints. I think he made sense as a Raider, like personality wise. Like he seemed like their mascot. Like that made sense to me. Is anyone else just still hung up on Drew Brees, or is it just me? Like it's so weird seeing another quarterback in New Orleans.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, it wasn't just Drew Brees too. It was Sean Payton, and,
Hmm.
and now you've got Dennis Allen and Derek Carr, and I just think they're a terrible matchup together.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen's never been successful where he's been. They don't have a lot of weapons outside of Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara and the do-it-all Taysom Hill. I mean, who do they have at receiver? You're talking about Rashid Shaheed, and they don't have a lot of weapons for Derek Carr to throw the ball to.
I mean, I
Uh,
like their defense. I think
the
they've got a
defense
solid
is solid.
defense,
Yeah.
but yeah, offensively, I didn't like what they did in the draft. I feel like they should have focused way more on offense in the draft, and it didn't seem like they were really like ready to go out there and push and trade up and move around to get the players that they needed to fill those gaps.
I think the Saints are secretly hoping that they found a a nugget in Spencer Rattler. I think they're hoping that Spencer Rattler can turn out to be the next guy.
The
Uh,
second coming.
yeah, because they're ready to move on from Derek Carr.
Hmm.
Um, he's at times he plays a little bit more like David Carr than he used to play in Vegas under Derek Carr. So um, I don't know. The Saints, there's nothing sexy about the Saints. There's nothing that jumps off the screen with them. They're gonna be a good defensive team. They're gonna be in a lot of games. Question is,
Yeah.
can they win them? You know what I mean?
I can see them pulling off 8 wins max. I feel like if they get more than 8 wins, the hype will suddenly be around Derek Carr again. But I just don't feel
Yeah.
like the players have faith in management and coaching, and I don't think management and coaching and fans really have a lot of faith in the players. So just
And
yeah,
again, a
nothing sexy
question
about
that
them. I like how you said that. That may yeah.
and a question that I always ask, they're wanting a new quarterback. How come they never give Taysom Hill a real shot at quarterback?
I don't understand.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Like
He's like
there
a better Tim Tebow. He can do it
Yeah,
all.
I mean, I was pissed when Green Bay let Taysom Hill go because like we've seen him like Swiss Army knife, etc. Like, why aren't we putting him in quarterback position? Like, we know he can play, we know he can do a lot of things, but like that doesn't mean he needs to be doing all of them. Like, if your
Yeah,
quarterback position is questionable, throw the kid in. Like, he has fun playing quarterback. Like, obviously,
yeah.
he loves being moved around and he loves being useful, but like, is he
I
worse than Derek Carr? Like, I don't understand.
don't know. I mean, it's debatable. And
Um,
soon we're gonna see Taysom Hill lining up on defense or offensive line. He's doing
he's
it all.
everywhere.
Yeah, he'll be
Punt
player coach.
returning. He's gonna be the placeholder for kicks.
Yeah. Let's go to NFC West. The 49ers are the heavy favorite. Nice to see them get the Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams deals done in time for the regular season.
Do
Loaded.
we think
Christian,
there's gonna be tension about how long the Ayuk deal took to come together? Like, do we think there's any animosity there or no?
no, I think this team's going to win football games. They're going to be contenders, and winning cures all. And as long as Brock Purdy is feeding Brandon Ayuk and getting him targets and getting him into the end zone, Ayuk's not going to have any worries.
Okay.
These contract negotiations are often, intense
Yeah.
and tough. And
That one just seems so drug out. And like that's not a
yeah,
player you let go. Like
and
even
I think
Daniel
it's
Jeremiah was like, what are you doing? Like I
I
just
think it's a win for both sides. Like, do you really think Ayuk wanted to go to Pittsburgh? No, he wants to stay in San Francisco, and the Niners didn't want to see him leave. So it's a win-win, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I have felt really bad for the 49ers the past couple of years. I mean, they've been this close. So I hope
Hmm.
they go all the way as long as they lose to Green Bay whenever they match up. So week 12, I would just like some justice because that game was crap. I think there was some bad decisions and some bad officiating that might have affected the outcome of that one. But the
What, Niners
49ers
Green
have been
Bay?
so close so many times in a row at this point. Like they deserve to win a freaking Super Bowl. Like having it dangled in front of you, like as a Packers fan, we went to but 3 NFC championships in 6 seasons and went to 0 Super Bowls during that time. Like that's disgusting. It sucks so much. So as long as they lose to Green Bay whenever they match up this season, I would be perfectly down with them going and winning for the NFC this year.
The guy who's got to prove it is Kyle Shanahan, who was
Hmm.
the offensive coordinator when the Falcons blew the 28-3 lead to New
Yeah.
England. and blew two Super Bowl leads to Kansas City as head coach of the Niners. So Kyle Shanahan needs to get that monkey off his back and
Yeah,
get a
for
championship.
real.
I think my prediction as of right now is a Eagles Niners NFC Championship game again.
Yeah,
So we'll
I can
see
see
if that
that.
happens. Um,
Packers, Niners. Packers finally beat the 49ers. Like they're gonna beat them in week 12 and then again in the NFC Championship. That's my prediction.
yeah, that'd be a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
Um, Rams. A lot of people are picking the Lions to go to the Super Bowl, and let's stop with that. Let's stop. All right. The
If
LA Rams,
the
who start
week
out the season
I was just gonna say the
on.
week after Detroit gets knocked out of the playoffs, we need to get some God hates Detroit shirts because that was all the rage growing up, man. Being from Michigan, oh, Detroit fans just like to play the victim there. Woe is me,
Well,
fans.
the national media is pushing it too much too, picking the Lions to
Hmm.
go to the Super Bowl, and some of the takes that it's like this is the Lions, like pump the brakes, and
Well,
I don't know.
and like even I do think they have the talent. Goff is questionable um at times and head coaching, but they don't put all that attention and pressure on them. Like I want people to just go back to
Yeah.
ignoring Jordan Love. Like let's be quietly good under the radar. But as soon as the media starts focusing on you, like it makes me question everything. Then I become super cynical. But you were trying to talk about the Rams here. Um,
Well, yeah, Rams at Lions on Sunday Night
yeah,
Football to start the season, and I don't know if you see Dan Campbell doing a commercial for like I don't know if
no.
it's Applebee's or something. Yeah, Dan
No, as
Campbell's.
soon as you start getting into commercials,
Yeah, it's like Matt Nagy's year two in Chicago. Like it's gonna fall apart.
don't do it.
Um, the
Clay
Rams,
Matthews and his hair commercials, and we never made it back to the Super Bowl after that. It's a
the
curse.
Rams, no more Aaron Donald, but
Oh,
they did draft
sad.
two D linemen out of Florida State, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. They bring in Darius Williams and Tre'Davious White in the
Love
secondary.
Tre'Davious White for them. I think that's a
Yeah,
great pickup.
and how about running back Blake Corum, the star at
Oh boy.
Michigan, with the Rams? So you got Kyron Williams and Blake
Chicago.
Corum. That's a hell of a 1-2
Dude,
punch.
Blake Corum is going to be he's his background and his story and the heart like that
Hmm.
he put into Michigan. I mean, that's gonna I am so excited for him to be on a team that can be competitive and to have a good coaching staff. I think yeah. I, I want good things for him. Obviously, if it comes down to, playing against them in the postseason, which I don't think it will, I would root against him actively. But this kid used to ride an hour to go play football before school, like
Yeah.
leave 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning just to be able to do this thing that he loves and he's good at. Like having someone with that much heart and that much drive on your team, especially a rookie, that's going to do so many good things for that offense, especially in the locker room. Like that's who you're competing with, someone who has that much dedication. I think that can only do very positive things.
Yeah, I think that's a great locker room guy. And Sean McVay knows how to get the most out of these guys.
Mhm.
Um, I think they're gonna be a very tough out. I think they're gonna be, you know, 9 to 11 wins. I think they're a playoff team. We'll see. Matthew Stafford's health is gonna be a big factor. Right now, Stetson Bennett is the backup, and I don't know if you saw him in the preseason, but he was terrible.
He's always
They're gonna
terrible.
Jimmy Garoppolo's on a 2 game suspension, so they will get Jimmy Garoppolo back, but I don't know if that's much of an upgrade either.
Yeah.
So
Garoppolo, I think, has had his time in the spotlight. I don't think he's gonna make it back to a
yeah.
starting position. I definitely think he's on the way down. Seattle is interesting.
Hmm.
They've got a lot of weapons. Geno Smith is good, but for some reason I just don't quite feel it from them. Like I'm not getting the vibes that they're gonna be um making a postseason push at all. I just with the
Well,
new
it's
head
always
coach situation
yeah.
and Pete Carroll gone, I don't think it's going to be their year.
It's always tough when you lose a legendary head coach, and Pete Carroll, people want to hate on Pete Carroll, but he was one of the best in the
Yeah,
league. And so losing him, um, Mike McDonald is good though. We'll see how he does as a
yeah,
rookie head coach. Uh, Byron Murphy drafted in the first round. That's a nice addition on the D line. And then I love that secondary. We all love that secondary. Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Julian
Mhm.
Love. Now you add Rayshon Jenkins, Kobe Bryant. They've got a lot of talent on that secondary. I think the key is Geno Smith, right? Can he kind of had a little bit of a down year last year. Can he revert to what he was 2 years ago? And see if Jackson Smith and Jigba can continue to develop and become more of a threat, more of a
Yeah.
weapon.
Yeah, so a lot of promise with Seattle. I don't know yet. They're one of those teams I'm kind of holding out on to see it, like Atlanta. I want to see how it plays out, you know. Um,
Yeah, tough division.
Cardinals are definitely not going to be missing the playoffs with a 12-win season this year, like we talked about earlier. Um, I love Kyler Murray, but he's just so fragile. I don't understand. Like I hope he can make it through a season without an injury, but I don't. I mean, even when he's been a starter, he's well below 500 for games he's started. I think they made some interesting moves in the draft. I like what's that running back they drafted? Trey
Trey Benson out of Florida
Benson.
State.
Yeah, I liked
Yeah,
him a lot. He was pretty high up on my running back board.
yeah.
Because Green Bay needed a running back too, so I was watching him. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see them pulling together this year.
Well, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a star day one.
Hmm.
And so I'm excited to watch the combo of Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray. And right, if Kyler Murray can stay healthy, we'll see what
Yeah.
happens there. I like
I don't
Michael
love that O
Wilson.
line though. I don't think the O line's going to protect them enough.
Yeah, I mean they're a good. They need to run the ball. They need to be
Mhm.
balanced. That's for sure. And they got James Conner and Trey Benson. So run the rock, and then
Yep.
take your deep shots to Marvin Harrison. I like Trey McBride. The defense, I'm not sold on. Outside of Buda Baker, they brought in Sean Murphy Bunting. They brought in Max Melton, the
I
rookie out
l-
of
I like
Rutgers.
Max Melton though,
Mm-hmm.
but
So they're trying to
yeah,
improve.
I was gonna say adding one or two players. I don't think they're at that point in the rebuild where bringing in these last couple pieces is going to pull it all together. I think they need to
Yeah,
continue building over the next couple years because Kyler Murray's young, he's got time. But the team is definitely like, say in year one or two of a rebuild, and they need a few more pieces built in there. And I mean, we talked about this with Hugh Jackson a lot last year about building from the trenches and kind of
yeah.
slowly stocking up a team to make a Super Bowl push. So I'm excited for them because I do see some improvements, but I don't think this year is going to be enough to culminate anything.
Yeah, I think they're a work in progress. I think their ceiling is probably 7 wins, 8 wins at most, and they're going to miss the playoffs. And I'm not a Jonathan Gannon guy. Their head coach. I think that if you upgrade the head coach, you give those weapons a real coach, then maybe you can do something with that. But they're not a complete team, and they're on the outside looking in. So we're going to keep this the NFC NFC preview because we can talk for hours if we wanted to.
Yeah.
But so looking at what we've got right now, we talk about the Niners, the Rams potentially being a playoff team, the Bucks and Falcons fighting for a spot, the Packers and Lions likely both making the playoffs, and the Cowboys and Eagles. So you got 6 or 7 teams there. How do you see the NFC? You talked about what, Niners Packers
Hmm.
in the NFC Championship game. I talked about Niners Eagles. Are you taking? So the question
Oh
for
man.
you is: are you picking your Packers to go to the Super Bowl? Is that what I'm hearing
Okay.
correctly?
So you know that what I want and what I pick don't always line up. Like you pick with your heart. I pick with logic. No, I think it's the Eagles or the 49ers going to the Super Bowl. Ideally, as a Packers fan, week 12 I think at San Francisco. Maybe the game's in Green Bay. Don't quote me on that. I could look it up, but it doesn't really matter. But losing to them in
Green
week
Bay.
12 and then coming back in the NFC Championship and beating them would be beautiful. Green Bay, I I love Jordan Love. I love the young and Matt LaFleur as a coach, I just adore him. Like the way he's questioned all the time, like who's your wide receiver one? He's like, we don't have one. And people
Hmm.
will read that on paper and be like, oh, that's bad. They don't have like their number one guy. It's because the seven of them are scrapping for number one week after week. They're keeping each other competitive. I love a young competitive offense. I think it's amazing when you have that many targets to throw to that like you don't have an obvious number one guy. It makes me think of the elite wide receiver core that Green Bay had back in the day. I mean, Jordy
Jordy
Nelson, Randall
Nelson.
Cobb, James Jones, like,
Yeah,
those like that wide receiver crew, if we could have that again, I
I think
then they
I
deserve
agree
to
with
win a Super
you
Bowl.
to a point, but this is my take here. I think a wide receiver one, the reason I agree with you that what they have right now is solid. Like you could do a lot worse than what they have. A lot of young guys that don't demand the ball, so you can spread it around, and the defense doesn't know who to double, right?
Yeah.
But what a number one elite wide receiver does is force the double,
Yeah.
and then that helps open up the other guys. I think if
But
you
I think that will
truly,
happen during the regular season. I think
yeah,
Christian Watson or Romeo Dobbs or somebody is going to start pulling away. By week
yeah,
two, we will know. But in the preseason, who cares who your wide receiver one is? Keep the other team
yeah.
guessing until a few actual games have been played.
Well, I'm just saying, if you wanted Jordan Love to truly take the next step, if you're going to make Jordan Love the highest paid quarterback and you want him to put up MVP numbers, be in the MVP conversation, trade for someone like Devontae Adams,
I
bring
knew
him
you were
back
going to
in
say fucking
town.
Devontae Adams. You were so predictable. I was like, oh, what? I was like, who's he
Well,
going to bring up now? No, dude.
I'm thinking Devontae to the Jets. That's what I'm waiting for.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. Because like
I
Aaron
think it'll happen
Rodgers,
like
I mean, he is
week
in people's
6.
ears. He is ayahuascaing his coaches. Like that
Yeah.
man controls a lot behind the scenes. So I'm surprised. And Devontae was not loving where he's at from
No, and now he's
past
got Gardner
interviews.
Minshew.
Like
Like, come on now. He wants out.
why hasn't something happened yet is what I want to know. Like what are we missing? There's got to be some
Probably
behind the scenes stuff. I can't
the
wait for
Raiders
Aaron
want
Rodgers
the
to
Raiders want a lot. The Raiders trade value for Devontae is like sky high. So
I feel like it, why? Like, do you guys think you're making a Super Bowl run this year? Because nobody else does. Like, why are you holding on to him for? Like, get
it's at
some draft
Mark
capital out of him.
Mark Davis. If you remember what Al Davis was like, it's Mark Davis. Here's an idea. If you're the Jets and you can't get a deal done with Hassan Reddick, send Hassan Reddick over to the Raiders along with a little
Oh,
draft capital and
I
get
like that.
Devontae. Yeah.
A second
So
rounder and Hassan Reddick for Devontae Adams.
yeah. So we'll
Maybe
see what
like a
happens.
third and a fourth. Ooh, I like that. Okay.
So why are you not taking the Lions to go to the Super Bowl though? That's what's surprising me there.
Because they would have lost to the Packers if the Packers could beat the Niners ever.
I'm just saying this is Green Bay needs to win the division this year over Detroit.
Oh, I think they will, but like
Yeah.
Detroit shouldn't have been in the championship game. Like I
Yeah.
think they had a great push and it was, it was pretty, it looks good, but I think if, things had played out differently, Green Bay would have beat them whenever they matched up. Um, the Cowboys shouldn't have been in the postseason either. Like they were pretty, it was a fun season, but I mean, I didn't think they were going to the Super Bowl. I didn't think either one of those teams was going to have a shot at winning a Super Bowl. Like if even if they had one, like even if the opposing quarterback had been down with COVID and didn't play and they made it to the Super Bowl, it would have been a blowout against either of those teams.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I think, the right team made it and went. Um, but yeah, I feel the same way this year. Like you can't trust Dan Campbell not to do some dumb, just out of pocket shit that loses big plays.
Yeah, I mean, Lions fans kind of like it right now. They're like, "Oh, gambling Dan
I'm so
Campbell." Like,
happy.
yeah, but the my closest comparison is Brandon Staley with what he was doing with the Chargers, and look where he's at now. Look what
Where
happened.
where
Did
is
that
that
team
exactly?
did that team ever win a playoff game with
No.
Justin Herbert, who's a better quarterback in my opinion than Goff?
I just think the
I'm
NFC wasn't very competitive last year, which is why certain teams
yeah.
looked better.
Yeah, the Eagles were down.
Mhm.
Uh a lot, yeah, but
And it was
I
the
would
year of
say
the backup quarterback throughout the league. Like the
yeah,
Packers were a mess until the last, what, six
late.
six weeks of the season. Um,
Yep.
so I feel like the AFC, and we said this early in the season. I said, I don't think it matters who goes to the Super Bowl. from the NFC, the AFC is so much more competitive this year. Like
Yeah.
we knew the AFC was gonna win like early on. And
Hmm.
this year I feel like the NFC has more
Same
of a
team.
chance.
Yeah.
But
If
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, throw the Jets in there. You still got the
Mhm.
Ravens. You still got the Chiefs. The Chargers are coming up.
Yeah.
You know, the Bills
But
are still in that.
we'll touch on all of this in our AFC preview, guys.
Yep.
But we would love to hear your Super Bowl picks, like your before week one kickoff. Give us the Super Bowl picks. Week one starts officially what less than
Thursday,
48
2 days.
hours.
Yeah.
So we're ready. We'd love to hear your, off the cuff picks for now so we can see if any of you are right. I mean, we have ours. We'll see who's more right. Usually it's me, but Alex thinks he's on one this year, so we'll see how that plays
Yeah,
out.
this is I'm bouncing back this year, and with Hugh and Chad coming on the show, I have to. I can't be acting a fool
You're gonna
with those
embarrass
guys
yourself in front of
on
Hugh Jackson, and I'm gonna love it.
here.
We can wear our matching shirts and make fun of you together. It'll be great.
Hey, I'm gonna test you some of these takes you're having on here with Hugh on Thursday night,
Do
so we'll
it.
see what he says.
I
But
back up my shit.
we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, follow all season long. We're hyped. We hope you guys are ready for football to start on Thursday night. And go Bears.
Ooh, no. Bad take. All right, peace out, guys.
Peace out.